Hello, everybody. First and foremost, please don't be alarmed by the Will Smith in me right now. I just came from meeting with clients. It is wedding season for us DJs out here, so don't mind the get up. But it's still your man, DJ Daz One, in the place to be, the head nerd in charge, aka Mr. Open Format. And we are here once again with another great episode of the Rap Sheet Podcast, where creatives and culture meet. That's right, that's right, that's right. And today, I have more applause. All right, I'll take it. Amen and amen and amen. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a legend straight out of the Kansas City area. For those that don't know, I have moved to Kansas City almost 4 years to the day. I got married. My beautiful wife is downstairs. Hey, babe, how you doing if you tuned in? And it was my goal to meet the real on-point DJs, MCs, singers, and just luminaries that are out here in KC, because the culture out here is very alive, very well. Despite what people may say, if you've never been out here in Kansas City, come out here first before you say anything, because there's plenty of dope talent. Salute to my brother Kemet Coleman, who's got a new album on the horizon, Android and streaming everywhere. Go get that. But as far as DJs are concerned, I really wanted to tap in with one of the DJs that has a unique story, who has worked with some of the world's greatest. And I mean, literally the world's greatest. I could say names like The Far Side. I could say names like Murs. I could say Method Man and Redman, Dizzy Wright, the Jabberwockies. Salute to the Jabberwockies, man. Khalid's Finest, one of the illest dance crews, who took home the first ever America's Best Dance Crew title on MTV. So salute to them. So many other names, and of course, the name he's probably most, familiar with, the one and only Tech Nine, Strange Music, all that. But in his own right, he's a producer, he's a DJ, he's a turntablist. He makes videos. He curates events. He's a part of some of the biggest stages, and he's got one coming up that I'm sure he's going to want to talk about. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to you the one and the only DJ Tiberias, y'all. Here we go. Yes, indeed. Man. Salute, sir. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great.
Thank you.
Just as you're saying, like, got a show coming up this weekend that me and Joey Cool from Strange Music are very excited about. We're co-headlining with 311, and it's been a while. I've been in the lab the last couple years, and now bringing everything out, doing live piano, doing live instrumental, live turntablism, drum machines, live bass guitar, which everybody knows me doing bass and DJing, but we're bringing all the stops. And I got some news today that I can't announce yet. That's that's why I got a big grin on my face today. Let me just put it that way. But
amen and amen. Just a couple of weeks back, I had DJ Ragosa and his wife Desiree on the show. And it's funny you mentioned bass guitar, because, he's the DJ, she's the guitarist as well as DJing. And I just really love how creative the art form is getting, where you can include musical instruments in your set while DJing at the same time. And it just brings a whole new dynamic to it, which leads me into your early beginnings, because I was reading your bio over the last couple of weeks. And you really are a classical head, because you studied everything from Mozart to Bach to Beethoven. Tell me about that. Like, you hear many DJs saying, I studied classical music.
Yeah, no, I've had a few people in my interviews be like, who is it that you look up to the most? And they're looking for, for me to say DJ Premier or,
Rocks or
somebody Rose. And I always start with Carl Orff. And people are always like, who the hell is that? Carl Orff is a guy that wrote Carmina Burana, which the song O Fortuna is that song that's like in every action film, where it's a choir actually singing in German. Mm-hmm. And what moves me about his story, especially, which is why I've like kept him as like my musical mentor, is that he was Jewish in Auschwitz, Germany, secretly. They didn't know he was Jewish, and he actually debuted because he was a playwright and a composer. He and his daughter debuted. I forgot the name of the play, but it was about the play where the wolf ate the sun, and it was actually his story about Nazi Germany taking over the beauty of Germany. He debuted it to a bunch of Nazi officers, like sergeants and stuff. So that place of being who you are, even if it can threaten your livelihood, because if they had got mad, first of all, from the play, he could have been looked into more, and he could have ended up, being killed for it. So that was just something that always moved me about his life. And as you're saying, like for me, it started at 8 years old. Classical music was something that I'm not talking about like the normal songs, but like, and that's something about with the show that we're about to do, why it's like full circle. The first piece that really moved me was Moonlight Sonata. So I like the stuff that's like really got just depth to it and it's kind of dark. Yeah. And funny enough, that is what Joey wanted to do as his intro for the show. And so all week I've been working on Moonlight Sonata, playing it live, because we're about to do it. It's already a sold out show. Wow. So, for 420, it's 311, us, and it's been a great week because I've been digging deep into my like original inspirations and then going from that right into hip hop. It's like, like I love the fact that true artists cannot, it's not about molding yourself to fit into a culture or molding yourself to fit into a brand, but being able to, as a turntablist or as a DJ or somebody part of the community, bring your own specific identity into the culture and being able to do that in a way that someone else hasn't. That's what makes you hopefully somebody or people to continue to talk about you over your years.
Absolutely, man. I can't disagree more. So again, like,
but I don't DJ classic music at the club. That's
no.
That's what I'm saying. Hey,
it could work. I mean, no one, if you had sat down with Danger Mouse and said, you're going to make a whole Jay-Z album based off Beatles samples, he would have been like, nah, I don't believe you. But
I got the Gray album right there. That's what
I love the Gray
this album right here is the Gray album.
I need that on vinyl so badly. Yeah. Just to have, not even just to play, just to.
No, for real.
man. But salute to Danger Mouse all day. So, from there, you learn to play a myriad of instruments: piano, bass guitar, percussion, sampling toys. We're going to get into that, and organic items. Once again, you don't hear percussion, bass, that stuff goes hand in hand with musicianship. But sampling toys and organic items, please explain.
Yes, so my original, I'd say where I originally tapped into that was on all my drum circle years. So like when I went to, when I was playing piano and then started doing bass guitar, but then I started getting heavy into doing drum circles, doing like, djembe, congas, all that kind of stuff. And if you know anything about drum circles, that means you're out in public and we're using like, we would just three or four percussionists just having fun, making noises on dumpsters and on different, like not trying to be stomp or anything, but like as a musician, you use what's around you.
Yeah.
And I was already getting into, what are the things that, really inspired my musicality when I was a young buck. And so that's why I wanted to start diving into using some of the old instruments, using the old speak and spell, using the things that like maybe back in the day, a normal kid would just push A and he'd say A and wouldn't hear the rhythm and alliteration to it. To an ADHD kid like me, that you hear it and you're like, oh, I'm gonna make something dope from that, and it just sticks with you. But to be straight about it too, someone who really opened my eyes to that whole world is not Cut Chemist, but is it not the DJ from Cut Chemist and trying to remember the other DJ from
Jurassic 5?
Yeah, from Jurassic 5. It's not.
Jeez.
I want to say Pure, but I know it's not Pure. I always mess up his name.
Oh no, it's oh man, this is good. Now it's on the tip of my tongue right now. I'm gonna look. Keep telling your story.
Yeah. Well,
look that up.
one show that I saw him and Cut Chemist at really just kind of blew me away. At one point, he came up. They had a sheet over this little demonstration, and then it was like 3/4 into their show. All of a sudden, he takes the sheet off, and he had these two what look like the toys where you'd push like the green square, and then like Mickey or Donald Duck would pop up and stuff like that, and those were actually samples. So he pushed he had literally a mixer and two of those toys, and he was triggering samples and started beat matching and almost like juggling. And it was like, to me, when I experienced that in a show, that took my creativity to a whole new level. I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to redo that, but now let me think about the next thing that I can do. I love this how him and Cut Chemist would just like mess with people's brains, like using a rubber band to create like a bass riff, and from stretching it to to me that's the beauty of music, is if you can get people, especially on stage, if you can open up their minds to see the things that are around them, everything's instrumental. To me, that's the magic of unlocking true creativity with people versus just being like, oh, that was a dope show. You know what I'm saying? Like,
true that. And that was DJ Newmark, by the way.
Thank you, Newmark. Thank you. I knew Pure was not right. That I didn't. I know I botched it, but no, dude.
I had to Google it just to remember.
Thank you.
And I should have known that because I love J5 to the fullest as well. So, so ladies and gentlemen, if you just now tuned in, we got the one and only DJ Tiberias, the real Tiberias, live and direct, representing Kansas City, Missouri, 816 to the fullest. So I should have started this. I should have asked this at the beginning, but we can go into it now. So when did the love of hip hop culture, whether it was a 12-inch or first record you bought, a video you saw, when did that first glimpse of hip hop win you over?
Yeah, so that won me over back in 2003, to be honest. I was touring at the time with an extreme sports tour. So I was their first DJ they had brought on. And so I originally started as a turntablist doing like Chicago house, some progressive trance, really like, the tracks that move me, but then also stuff that like, I've always loved house music.
Yeah.
But I started touring with B-boys, and that's what got me into the culture. Like, I listened to hip hop before then, but it wasn't something that really took me as much as it should have at the time. But that's the beauty of the culture. Once I got, really introduced and ingrained in the culture, from, graffiti writers to B-boys, that's when I started studying breaks, started going, my first time I was in New York, went to Beach Street, was able to find all those hip hop records that like I only dreamed of finding, and being able to find doubles, like.
Before you get into that, I just got this one the other day.
There you go.
For $1.
Yeah.
Amen. But keep going.
I love it. Well, no, and that's really, so for me at that time, I hadn't really been messing with scratching. I was, which is what's giving me my unique style of DJing, because when I started as like a progressive trance DJ, I was straight 3 years in my basement, just working on mixes, not in front of anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody knows progressive trance, like it's a 1.5 minute transitions. You're like really taking your time on, changing the bass frequencies and bringing stuff in. And so when I started doing breaks in hip hop, instead of just doing cold drops, that was my thing. I always mix everything live that I do. And, every once in a while I'll do a cold drop, but it's like, I don't know, when I know I can mix it, I love being able to keep that same BPM. Yeah. Unless it's taken away from a good transition, especially if you're DJing like a B-boy battle and you want to make that quick change because you want to give the next dancer, the same competitive edge, then I'll do it. Just also knowing battle forms. My biggest thing, I went to a battle the other day, and it was a great battle, but that was my one critique, was knowing somebody that hasn't been a part of that yet. Seeing that, hey, once you got the next guy coming on, you got to give him that same edge as the person who's starting, because competitively, it's better to be second in the battle because you're now answering the questions presented. Right. And if they're starting their line in the middle of like not the, before the breakdown, or something where it's not as edge. Like your first few seconds of presentation can be the difference of you captivating that crowd or not, or the judges. So yeah, so that's my thing as a turntablist. I always love to mix everything live, take my time on it, but it just depends on the event. If it's a b-boy event, which is what when I've done stuff with the Jabberwockies, like a lot of my crew, my b-boy crew that I've been a part of, Tiger Style crew for years. Some of us have worked on that side of things, like with the Jabberwockies, and then we got other people that went on the pop side that have like danced for Bieber and Taylor Swift, and to me, it's all about finding your niche and sticking to it. And I got a lot of friends and brothers that are in the industry in their own forms, and I love it. I support all my anytime that anybody's coming to town or somewhere close, I always try to support, because I know as an artist how important that is. As artists, we always think like everybody's looking at us. Everybody thinks that we're just happy and we feel supported, but any other artist will tell you sometimes it could be the loneliest, most we are our own biggest critics, and people think that we're getting applause from people, when a lot of times we're not feeling that in our own personal worlds. So as an OG and as an artist to another artist, I always try to go out and support when I can. And as the biggest way of supporting is showing, taking your time and showing up in person.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's something a lot of people don't do, but we will not unpack that right now, because we don't want to call out any names, but y'all know who y'all are that don't support your local DJs. That's the only way the city's going to get better, is if you come. You don't got to stay all night. Just come for 20 minutes. Just so you can say that you were there. Absolutely. So you just start getting into beat breaks, and do you remember what are some of your favorite beat breaks to play when you're doing a b-boy battle, or just to play just for the heck of it?
I love, and this is just my style. I love stuff with a lot of emotionality. So like, Stopping by Mark Ronson is a go-to. There's the classics like Just Begun,
Dance to the Drummer's Beat. Losing Pants.
Hot Pants, anything James Brown, Get on the Good Foot, but I like stuff that's not typical, but it's got really good heavy drums, because I like bringing that. So for instance, like Brooklyn is Burning, stuff but from, especially if I can find stuff that's coming from like rock groups, that like bringing some Led Zeppelin, something where the drum breaks are actually stupid heavy. It's just, you just didn't think of it as a break beat, and especially, as a turntablist, then if you're bringing in the break, and that's the one beautiful thing about what we have now with the technology, man, if all of a sudden think of something, I could take that vocal off and just do the break, and it's like, it's not the break of the song. It's now I got the whole song as a break, because, if it's the right track, if it's a drum heavy track,
stems have really changed the game.
I love stems. Like, I love doing live mashups, with how my brain runs. I'm constantly thinking about stuff. And a lot of times I get my inspiration from my crowd, just like how I get inspiration for, stuff when I'm watching a show. It's the same thing when I'm out in an environment. And so to be able to do that off live and not have to go home and be like, all right, I need to make an instrumental of this version because I want to mash this up live with, like for instance, I did one this season that I'm about to do again at 311, which is, Red Kingdom by Tech, but with MLP's Annie Up. I do that. And any mashup I do, a lot of times I won't record it and put it out. I know sometimes I'll do it so people can download it and hear it. But those mashups are always, I'm always actually doing it on the turntables. Like even the one that we were just talking about, like I never just use the Ableton file and sync it up. For me, if I'm going to have a mashup, I want to be able to easily, manipulate it and do it on the turntables, just out of respect for the craft that I love, so like even that Humble with Welcome to Jamrock, mashup, that was all me recording, me having done the set 6 or 7 times, and then I'll just record it, and then if I like it, I'll create an LP cover for it and throw it out for free download. But my biggest thing is about keeping the original inspiration there, and a lot of it's coming from me doing a set, and I had an idea, and then worked really well. Got a reaction out of the crowd, so then it's like, all right, let's try this again.
Awesome sauce, man. Absolutely. One of the biggest things in my career over the 30 years that I've been doing this is the need to practice and rehearse daily. Like my wife sometimes will be like, "You coming to bed yet?" And I'm like, can you give me another hour?
Yeah.
And she's like, "It's 3 a.m. I'm like, "I know. Sorry." I was like, "You know what? Let me just pack up so she doesn't get upset." But it's the hunger that I have to want to give my best. And I feel if I don't practice, I'll be rusty at a wedding. I'll be rusty at a prom, or even as something as simple as just playing at the ale house or something like. Because it's funny when people hear you play, they'll say you did a great job, but you notice that one little thing that messes up that transition or that sequence, and it'll just eat at you the whole night to the point where you have to go home and just practice for another couple of hours just so you can tighten that little thing up. How is rehearsing, and how serious do you take practicing and rehearsing and recording what it is you practice so you can listen to it while you're in the car so you can say, okay, that didn't work? For those that are just now tuning in that are new DJs, and we're not knocking new DJs that have been doing this for like 2, 3, 4 years, keep at it. But they need to really understand how important it is to practice and keep practicing and keep sharpening your sword, as RZA would say. Explain that and describe your work regimen for those that are.
So, I do it a little different because like other than me, so I do a lot of my instrumentation practice at home. But when it comes to turntablism, especially because when I first started, it was records only. So when that moment, there was something that changed in my ear and my brain where I always know what beat's coming from one track.
Right.
And so, because of that, and I have that on lock, I actually like practicing new routines live, because that's, to me, it's almost, I treat it like stand-up comedy. Like if I have an idea and I think it's dope, but then it doesn't respond with the crowd, okay, I thought that was dope, and maybe I'll use that for a mixtape or something I'm doing. But I always like to get the live reaction from the crowd to figure out, because sometimes that'll even make me figure it out even more. So I'll usually, do it more earlier hours where it's going to get less of a reaction just that first time when I have an idea, because, opening hours, they're just figuring out who you are, what you're doing.
Yeah.
And when you've been mixing as long as I do, even if there was a little bit of a gaffe, people usually don't notice it because I'm actually mixing all night. You know what I'm saying? So I do a lot of things off the hymn. If I have an artist walk in, I'll try to pull up their stuff. Like the other day I had Nave Manjo walk in when I was doing a set. And out of respect for him, I immediately pulled up this track he did with Tech, and then did this I was kind of in the house kind of Latin vibe. And just was like, hey, they're about same BPM, they're about 130. Let's see how this goes.
Right.
Went great. And then that makes me go, okay, now I'm gonna dissect it and verse chorus it and figure it out even further now that I saw it work. So that's usually how I test something as a concept. And then maybe I'll come home and go further in the lab with it, till I create an actual routine or a full mashup, but once again, I pull a lot of my inspiration from the crowd, and I feel like giving that respect of like, hey, I'm not gonna be perfect in front of you, because one of the things is that I love as a turntablist is inspiring other artists, and the reality is through our failures is where we get the most gains. Right. And when I'm being transparent and doing stuff like that in front of people, because sometimes, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but my mixing is rather solid to where sometimes I've had people think that I'm just playing a mixtape, and that shows that there's some DJs out there that maybe aren't mixing as well. I don't know. I'm not trying to talk crap on anybody, but like, people can tell the difference when someone's actually, blending, like paying attention to their BPMs, blending things properly, when it comes to frequency wise, like versus not, just cold dropping all night, which cold drops is a great transition. But if you're doing that every single time, you're brick walling it every single time, which if you use that brick wall for a good moment of the night, great. But I like to keep my dance floor like a steady heartbeat. I'm trying to go from, maybe starting in the 90s to hundreds to, moving up slowly to the 120s and the 74 and then back down, it really is, as DJs, we are really directing the party.
Yeah.
And so you want to give the people, at some point, I learned also, because I used to go, too hard, too long. I learned on how to, sometimes you got to give them a drink break. It's got to be a dope drink break, not to where they're like leaving, but like if you've gone hard for 90 minutes solid in the floor, is at that place where they need one or two songs that's kind of pulling it back a little bit, so then you can go hard again on that third step. Do it, because you're also trying to make money for the bar, and if they're constantly just on the floor, those are the things that sometimes younger, or people that haven't had as many conversations as we have with the GMs, with the venues, and some of the things I've learned from my combos is just like, hey, bring the party, but also, range it so they want to continue, versus somebody being like, oh, this isn't my party, that's why I like fluctuating through genres too, man. Like I love it when a party's got a specific genre, because then it gives me more freedom to like do the like deep cuts and like just stay there. But if it's an open format, spot, or an open format set, like I love going. I mean, shit, I've been dropping this Beach Boys remix that I've been doing lately, and I have young guys come up and be like, "Did you really play the Beach Boys?" I was like, "Yeah." Like, because it's a dope ass beat behind it, and and then I do some wordplay with it too, and it's like, that's the whole point. It got your attention. You know what I'm saying? That was the point of it, was to get your attention. But
reading the room is another important factor that a lot of DJs don't do. Just look up and see what the room is doing. If they're vibing, keep doing it. If not, be ready to make that switch. So reading the room is another great factor.
To me, just before you cut in, that to me, that's my biggest thing I look for DJs, especially with my company, is like what I call the spidey sense. Because you can be a dope DJ, but if you are just coming and doing what you like, to me, you're not doing your job right. Especially in the service industry. Like for me, it's important to have that spidey sense, to be able to read and be tapped into what the room needs. For also even just the safety, like if you're getting too hard, too long, you don't want your patrons to be coming and having fun, and then you're going so buck that something happens. It really is an art form to bring that element, but then condense it and get it to where people are having a fun time, and you're giving time for each segment of people that are there. But
exactly. Couldn't have said it any better than that. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have the one and only DJ Tiberias here, representing the 816 to the fullest.
Yes.
Let's speak about Tech Nine real quick. I mean, what hasn't been said about Tech Nine over the many years that he has done what he has done? How did you and him meet, and how did you and Strange Music become bedfellows, if you will?
It happened from what I've seen the most success with, which is being confident in myself in certain sets, but then also just treating people like normal humans. Never, I'm the kind of person that's hung out with a lot of celebrities, and I've learned a long time to never go up to them and be like, I'm a fan, because as soon as you do that, even if you feel that way, like it just changes the relationship immediately. And my relationship with Tech started because of, me and JL and Joey Cool. We started all collabing together naturally came from the fact that I was DJing this residency that actually Tex Lady was the GM at, and she was actually employing JL's girlfriend and Joey's girlfriend. So it came a thing where every Wednesday night, not Tech, but like Joey and and JL and myself were always there having a good time on a Wednesday night. And then there's a few times where Tech started to come in, started to see me do what I was doing. So then when I did that Method Man Redman show, which was our first big show we did together, he came up to me being like, dude, I had no idea, because I did something with B-Boys there too. He's like, I had no idea you could do that stuff, because I don't talk about my shit. I like to allow people to see it, experience it. And, that B-Boy set got added on last minute. It was a kind of thing where they had an act not show up, and they had already asked some B-Boys to come out. So I was like, hey, how about you give me 20 minutes? I'll take the 20-minute set. I'll do some old school breaks. I'll get them to be interactive. And then Tech saw me do that. And like, that's when we really started chopping it up and talking about it. So,
nice. So I've never been on the road with Tech Nine. I only hear the music. I don't know what he's like behind the scenes. So as a business person, as an artist for this culture, what is Tech Nine like behind the scenes for those that do not know?
The nicest man I have ever met in my life. Let me tell you that. The also busiest man I've ever met in my life. I've gone to his house before, like, us having some one-on-one time. It's 7 o'clock and he's on the phone doing a conference call with 1,500 DJs, like talking them through his new album. like he really is the kind, he really, learned that work ethic of, you go hard and you schedule out everything, I've had nothing but amazing experiences with him, over the years, and continue to just put him on a place of, mentorship. I just constantly look up to him in a place of, okay, you're doing this, I want to go even further, but at the same time with the respect of it, just like I want to push myself harder, and it's like hanging out with one of the greats, man. It really is like, it's and it's never to be surprised when all of a sudden he just drops something and I'm just like, okay, I'm never surprised. I'm just like, dude, I know you're the illest, but still you're blowing me away right now with what like his wordplay, his multiple forms of alliteration and technique. Like, man, there's a reason why so many people in the industry have such a high respect for him. From the number of albums, the fact that, like, even though he's had a niche, he constantly pushes it, and I love it. And I don't know, he gets flack from some loyal fans that are just, that's one of the biggest things I've established and understood over the last couple of years is, like, out of all the forms of art, audio is the one that for some reason we attach nostalgia to it. And a lot of times we want to keep our audio artists in a box. And I could understand it from when Dre dropped his last album. All of us wanted Chronic 2001 B, because that was the nostalgic album that, for me was such a, during my high school years, it was just such a solid, and it just, as the years went on, that album just continued to, I started to see even deeper gems in that album. And so from discovering it for myself, and my bias is when I saw it, when I've been seeing other artists deal with it, where people were like, oh, this isn't you. And it's like, no, this is Tech. What are you talking about? He's just evolving. And as an artist, he's constantly trying to challenge and recreate himself, and also keep his identity. Like, you can only do so much in the audio art. And I just am constantly inspired by how, he'll try to keep true to himself and make sure his thumbprint's in there, but he doesn't shy away from anything when it comes to styles or what he wants to do. I don't know. I have the greatest respect for that man and his family. Like, they're some of the greatest people. And on the road, same thing, man. Like, The last big tour we did, the Planet Tour, he had that one B-boy track in that. So at the time he was 47, I was seeing him, like I did 64 events in 67 days, 58 concerts with Tech, flew back for 4 of my weddings that are, the high-end weddings, and then did 6 events in those 4 days. So I did like a wedding or a nightclub and the red eye back out. And like, I pushed myself, and I still know I didn't push myself as much as he did, like, because he was 47 and he was breaking like during that Planet Rock track. Like, he's doing like 6-step and stuff. And I'm like, dude, I'm like having to stretch all morning because I'm just jumping on stage. How are you at 47 dropping down and doing 6-step? And like, I love that he understands, like, hey, if I want to do something, I gotta also train my body, or like he doesn't half-ass anything. He knows what he has to do to successfully bring the same product every night, especially when they're on the road. Like that. Like, he did 21-day run, 1 day off, 20-day run. Like, it was an intense schedule.
Yeah.
But for the right reason, which is that he's in high demand. So when he's on the road, we got to hit all those cities and then get back to the family. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that when we're out, even though we might be pushing ourselves that hard, like,
he's having fun.
Yeah, he's having fun. And it's also efficient. At least there's not, you're not like anybody else that's toured. Like, you don't want to be sitting for 4 or 5 days on the road, not doing anything. You want something every single night. So that way, when you're away from your family, you're making it worth your time. Yeah. And worth the fans' time. So you're reaching out as much as they're needing you. And he is one that is constantly, just, I love his reach of fans. There's great diversity in it. So
let's speak on Guru real quick, because Guru, being from Boston, where I spent most of my life, they didn't really take to him too well. He had to leave his home city of Roxbury to go to New York to finally be appreciated. Has you or Tech Nine have to experience you not getting love from your own hometown?
But I think any artist that says that it hasn't happened is lying.
Right.
I think just like from the Christian background I grew up in, a prophet is accepted everywhere other than their hometown, because they go. It's like imagine the story of Jesus. Like, people being like, "You think you're the savior? I saw you when you were in, when you crapped your pants." And that one story. Like, the reality is, like, when they see you as a kid, they can't see you in a state of greatness.
Yeah.
Unless massive or if they do, there's massive jealousy that's attached. So, a lot of times in your own city, you're not appreciated. That's why I'm very happy about what happened with Red Kingdom, because the reality is he's always had the respect here, but there's so much jealousy in the city about it, to where now I feel like in Kansas City, he's finally, I'm not going to say finally, he's always had the respect, but I think the respect that he deserves. I think people, I think anytime you brought up his name in the city, everybody knew who he was. But now, even the ones that are jealous can't deny his impact with, it should have been way before Red Kingdom.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But that's that, you got those milestones that nobody can touch, and you can go, okay, you don't think I'm really doing my greatest? Like, this is the anthem of the Chiefs. So I don't, like that's something that really, it's really blessed me to see that with him, because I really do think any artist is not truly respected in their hometown. And it's crazy how sometimes if you reach outside of that, how you'll find, like we're saying with Guru, you can find that, in a different city, people are going to go, where did you come from? And let me start networking and putting you on mixtape. Like, let me start working with you as much as possible. So, dude, I think any MC, any artist that has, as we both know with Guru, like, he just had such a specific flow and style, and anybody that comes not like everybody else is always going to be talked down and questioned.
Yeah.
Which with the true artist, that should be nothing but extra fire that makes you go, okay, you don't think I'm as good because I'm not doing this style that you guys have been doing for the last 10 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me show you why my style is doper. Let me show you, you know what I'm saying? Like, because the reality is we as consumers, you know, we all, you know, out of just the rhythm of life, we like to reject what's not normal or what's not, you know, massively regurgitated. And to me, the MCs that maybe during the beginning they didn't get the respect, but the ones I look back now, you know, for me, my favorite's always been Charlie Tuna. Like I've just always loved his flow, especially the tone of his voice, you know, like, and then like especially when you talk about Wu-Tang, dude. Obviously, every Method Man's always to me been the dopest, but then you know ODB as well. Like just the people that found their niche and was like, hey, I might not be good at this, but this is who I am, so I'm gonna just really own this. You know, that I think to me that was one of the great kind of things that happened with Wu-Tang was because with having such a squad, it was almost like a b-boy crew. They're able to go out and be like, hey, we're here to battle, and we got a power cat, we got a dude that does foundation. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what a b-boy crew would always do. You didn't have everybody that just did the same stuff. You had to have somebody that was good at power. You had somebody that had to be good at top rock. You had to have somebody that was good, you know, on the floor. You know, some popper, like. And I think Wu-Tang did that for hip hop because it was the first time you saw that many MCs under one title. And now we all know. I mean, we all know what Wu-Tang did. Like they just changed the game.
Absolutely. And I think we can let's also add Native Tongues, Organized Noise, the Beat Miners, like Boot Camp. There's so many just origins of just great individual talents that have their own unique personas meshed together to just do something totally unheard of. I love how you mentioned not being respected, but yet have the greatest talent, which brings me to Kendrick and J. Cole, which has been the topic of discussion these last, I guess, couple of
Kendrick right here.
And I rep Cole to the fullest. But both of them are different. They're not gangsters. They're not political. They're not mainstream. They're not trying to have the hit in the strip clubs. These are just two different type of MCs from two different backgrounds that are trying to preserve what is left of this culture called lyricism, which has lacked a whole lot. Take away from the beef records because, you know, I mean, I think beefing on wax is a lot different now than it was back when I was growing up. But do you feel that, and these are two MCs that don't really need beef records to be relevant, but it's cool that they're doing this. And I think it's a positive for the culture because it'll never turn violent, thank goodness, because that's not their MO at all. But what you've heard, and I'm sure you've heard every battle verse that's been coming from this whole thing. What's your take on it? How do you feel about Kendrick and J. Cole, even with the apology, which I want to ask you how you feel about that, but speak on that real quick.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm always going to go on Kendrick's side. But that's also, you know, strange. We got personal history with Kendrick, you know, and with J-Rock and stuff. Like Kendrick's first tour was with Strange Music. Those that don't know the history, J-Rock was signed by Strange Music. And in the middle of one of his tours, his hype MC actually, I can't get into it, but passed away. I'll just say that. And so halfway through tour, he brings out this little kid. It's obviously not a little kid, but at the time, you know, he hadn't put out a record. Nobody knew who he was, and that guy was Kendrick Lamar. Wow. And so, you know, so for me, I've always had the highest respect for Kendrick, especially. I love it because I was there when people were telling me about this new guy that was coming up. They're, you know, talking so big about him. And then when I heard him, I was like, oh yeah, okay. I see why you're saying this, you know? And I've every album he's put out. I loved it. You know, his art is like, it's just when you see a real artist, you know, like there's not a lot of them out there because the reality is, you know, with the whole 1-2 hook method that I've learned, which is like, you know, when you hear something new, our defense system, we reject it at first. And then the second time you hear it, you're like, oh, that's not bad. By the third time, now you got a taste for it. And, you know, because of that, some people give up before that happens, you know, before people start to crave their style or their music, you know, which is why as an artist, you really have to be dedicated to it. This isn't, if you're seeking popularity, you're in the wrong business.
Right.
Because this is a business where you are constantly changing yourself and having to reestablish the new boundaries that you're learning as you get older, you know, if it's body or whatever. And Kendrick, I've seen it from the beginning, man. And same with J. Cole, man. I've had respect for him. I did on tour, on that Planet tour, I did do a little bit of a slam routine on Jay. But this is how, and it wasn't because out of disrespect for Jay, but he had just came out with KOD, which if you know who the KOD is, that's Tech Nine. He's the King of Darkness. And so that's, as a turntablist, that happened right when I went on the road. And I was like, I'm going to speak on this, but from the turntables. So I brought that line where he's saying he's the KOD, and I repeated it a couple of times, and then I would get on the mic, and I'd start to sprinkle in Tech, and then it would be like, you know, there's only one KOD in this house, blah, 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 blah. And then I drop into, you know, into Tech. And, you know, and it's just, to me, that's what true turntablism is, man. Especially as an artist, like, you know, when you're on the road and a current event happens, speak on it. Like, not on the mic and be like, hey, everybody, this is my thoughts. Do it in your art style. And that's what I enjoy when I see these beefs, because that's also what they're doing. Right. You know, if it's responding to something, you know, like, you know, Kendrick was just responding to the whole Big Three statement, you know, and that's the realest form of this culture. You know, this culture was the way that people established their crew and their you know, from everybody, it was like that same block party, and there could only be one, you know. And I love that's where hip hop was. Instead of it being like physical violence and gang violence, we used competition. And you know, as things have gotten older, I remember the b-boy scene in Kansas City when I first got here. One of the first things I went to, there was a middle of the floor, this dude that I knew came out to rock him juice and flipped everybody off, and then bam, he's now one of my closest friends. Not at the time, I didn't know him at the time, but was a Jabberwocky for a long time. Came and responded battle wise, and then went to fists, and I was like, oh shit. Oh man. So they got pulled out a bit since then, but like, you know, I love that place of like, all right, you're gonna say that you're the illest, show it, and then I'm gonna come back and show you why you're not. And then, you know, the reality is they're both gonna have their own perspective. You know, they're always gonna think they're the illest, but then it's like, all right, show it and communicate it in an artistic way, and let us be the judge. And guess what? It doesn't really matter. The fact that you're challenging yourself to be the best and to show it, to me, that's where the art lies. And that's the art that I get the most excited about, you know? So I'm not going to, even though I have a side, I'm not going to fully pick a side, because I'm going to say on both of their sides. I love that I mean, this is some art shit, and this is some community shit. And like, you know.
And what I love most about it is both these respective MCs already had great albums. And I mean, more than just one great album prior to any of this. So when all this fails, they'll still go back to making classic albums and still be able to tour. So this really isn't a loss. This is just expanded creativity on both ends, but at the end of the day, they have catalogs that will not be touched at all. And I respect.
To me, this is education. This is educational to the rest of the music scene, and it's like little milestones that will always be talked about. Like, somebody might not talk about, for whatever reason, that album, but they'll talk about that beef. You know, and as a, you know, to really make your imprint as an artist, you need to do that. You need to, you don't know what your fans or people that are hearing your art, what they're walking away with. And so to do the multiple different forms, like, you're educating everybody. And especially when it's like beef off of, a couple words that were said, you're showing, hey, this is what going in the lab's about. And this is what real music is about taking what's right in front of you and communicating it in the best way that you can, to where you can stand behind it. I don't know. I love it. I love it all around. It's like me talking about a b-boy battle and being like, whose side you on? I'm on the side of the battle. I love watching the battle. I might have somebody that was like, I felt like they took it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but also I know I might have a bias because I might like their style better.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, we got the one and only DJ Tiberias here. We're about to wind up in the next 5 or 6 minutes, but I just wanted to give you a chance to talk about the next thing that you talked about at the beginning of this interview. Talk about this upcoming 420 show you've got coming on. Who's going to be there? Let just spill the beans on that.
Yeah, so this Saturday we're Joey Cool and myself we're co-headlining with 311, which is awesome. A band that I loved back in the early 2000s in my high school years. The thing I love about it the most is it's bringing the opportunity for me to bring my true passion out again, which is playing live instrumentation. And it's crazy that the first piece of music that really moved me, which is Moonlight Sonata, is already the intro that Joey wanted to do, because he has it on one of his albums. And I've been in so much in the lab, I didn't even catch it. And so when he played it and he was like, hey, this is the intro we're doing, I was like, all right, I'm creating a piece of this where I'm pulling the piano and playing this live. And so, so we've been in the lab I've been in the lab last 2 weeks. We just started doing practices today at Strangeland. But yeah, I'm doing live piano, live bass guitar, live drum machines, live turntablism, some hype emceeing. For me, I'm all about not just being the guy that's push and play and just waving from back there and acting like you're cool. For me, if an artist is bringing me on stage, especially when I started working back with them, my goal was to give them a freedom of a stand-up comedian. I really wanted them to, if they walked into a room and felt like the room was cold to a certain part of their catalog, I actually taught them a hand signaling system to where they can tell me if they want me to, if they wanted to all of a sudden go a cappella, or if they wanted me to like beat scratch, so go a cappella, but then, beat scratching for them. Because I wanted to give them that freedom. And so this is definitely not one of those sets because it's definitely planned out because we're co-headlining. But man, I'm just honored to be back. I'm honored to be able to push myself again, and especially with a song that means so much to me, because as a young kid that was, growing up around the church and hearing music that never, it was good for church, but never moved me. The dark classical pieces that just had some depth to it has always been something that's really stuck with me. So to be able to do that at a hip hop show and not just push play, but play it live, no one's going to know the weeks of turmoil I put into making sure, those live, 32 bars of Moonlight Sonata is perfect. You know what I'm saying? And that's not something that they ever need to know, but I will know it. Another big, huge milestone is my son is going to be seeing me performing for the very first time. So, so it's going to be a big night for me because, I had a lot of stuff happen over the last couple of years, which is why I pulled myself off the road. And I've been just committing to my kids. And I did this last July, I almost gave up on music and stuff. And just one of my darkest hours, my son said something to me that was really real, because we have a very transparent relationship. And dude, he doesn't even know what's happening at the end of this concert, but me and Joey have already talked about it, because he's going to get his flowers. He's not only going to see me perform, but he's going to have his moment where I hope it catches the bug, even if he doesn't choose to go in my footsteps. I've never wanted that from my kids unless it was something that they wanted. He's 16.
Okay. No.
And so for him he's seen me DJ before, but for him to see me do the live instrumentation and to see the end product of what he knows his dad being downstairs practicing all day and getting stuff right. Just as a father too, man, it just gives me the greatest opportunity to show him why you put in the work, because with AI and with everything, you don't need to. You could just easily have AI write music for you, put your name on it, and say, "This is me." Well, you're not putting your human experience in that. And to me, that's why even with my work this last year, I've been really pushing into my own music and singing and getting into, writing my own stories and telling them. I don't use any kind of vocal tricks and stuff like that, because to me, the raw cracks and what I'm communicating, that to me is what moved me with the blues. When you hear some of these old blues tracks, like as soon as somebody starts singing, you're hearing their perspective and what they've experienced in that first note that they're singing. And that's something AI can never do. Pop, that's one thing why I've never been a fan of pop. Like for me, real music with real emotion behind it is to me showing the reality of life. Like there's great moments of life. I love that Celebration sells, Pharrell's Happy, with how big that song got. It makes sense. Right. Corporately, it's easy to focus on it and focus on, hey, let's all be happy and these are great days. And I love that. But when that's that in the perfect, having what's perfect to what, what entertainment says is good. Like it definitely sends some of us artists that go through hard times, some shock, because it makes you go, oh, maybe I'm just not happy, or why is it that I'm dealing with this stuff? And that's, to me, the beauty of music, is diving into some of those dark places, and which is why my artist name, when it comes through the stuff I'm doing, I'm claiming my original name that nobody's ever known, which is Jonathan Drake. I was born Jonathan Bartlett, but my father was born Stephen Drake. His mom remarried at 8, and he kept the name of the guy that she remarried. And I wanted to, especially with my stage monicum, embrace that this is the man that I could have been and I've never known, which is Jonathan Drake. And as I go on my journey of discovering my weaknesses, my failures, and also my successes, I just, from the very beginning, want to be fully transparent on that journey, because I think that's the difference of why it's going to be worth my time is, if I write something and it impacts somebody to where it just gives them enough strength to push on another day, or like with my son, somebody in that moment where I've been doing it at that time for so many years and was willing to give it up because I didn't want to be that guy in his 40s putting a second mortgage on his house to invest in a mixtape. I was like, I just like seen that so many times. I was like, and it really was a day with even all my accolades and everything I've done. It was like, am I going to my next chapter or not? Or am I choosing to go, hey, that was a great 25 years I just put in, and I'm going to let that be. To step into that next level, I'm not surprised there had to be a death. It had to be a real, for me to go to another level. You have to have the seed has to die in the earth for it to grow into a plant. And, to really have experienced that and to have it to where my son's going to, reap the benefits of seeing his dad on stage, when it could have possibly not happened if we didn't have that combo. Like I'm ecstatic. I know I'm a little emotional about it, but it's just like, it's some real shit for me,
don't apologize at all. Don't. No. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that, because you understand the purpose of why you slave day and night and day in the studio with the artists that you work with, because there's a purpose for it, that when you leave this earth, he'll have something to hold on to and say, this is what my dad did. And he might even talk a little mess like, my dad's better than yours. Here's why. So, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. So do not ever apologize. I think that's dope for you to just be vulnerable to share that. And I appreciate that wholeheartedly. Before we get up out of here, I think it's only right that we speak on someone that we just lost recently that's probably a milestone to both of us respectively, and that's DJ Mr. C. Never mind the fact that he discovered Biggie, that he DJ'd for one of the biggest artists in the world and Big Daddy Kane. But like you, his love for just DJing truly was shown wherever he put his foot, wherever he walked, whatever building he was in, whatever stage he stepped on, whatever 1200s he touched.
Yep.
In your own words, what did Mr. C mean to DJ Tiberias?
Man, that's a big question. Like, there's so many people that I've looked in my past that I've just tried to take inspiration from. I every artist, I try to at least take one thing from their journey, and, especially seeing what he did as a DJ and behind the scenes and who he put on and what he was a part of. Like as you said, like Big Daddy Kane, like, as you know,
yeah,
changed the game. Like,
yeah,
there's so many MCs that like Rakim changed the game, like that stuck in their style and just went. Like Notorious B.I.G. changed the game. Like,
oh yeah,
nobody was doing what he was doing.
No,
and there's always going to be the talk about, the people I'm associated with. Obviously we're more on the Tupac side of things, but I've always loved, especially Notorious B.I.G. Being a bigger guy all my life. Like, I feel like there's things that I've learned from him that has helped me get through my dark days, being a bigger guy, because people judge you off of the 2 seconds that they look at you. And, let me just put it this way. There wouldn't be Notorious B.I.G. and there wouldn't be that positive influence in my life if it wasn't for Mr. C. There wouldn't be, Big Daddy Kane and, like, dude, there's like, if it wasn't for Big Daddy Kane, you wouldn't have Black Roots. Like, there's so many things that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for that person sticking out and being themselves. And even if they never got to a place where they're making all the money that all the MCs are, when it comes to the stories that are being told about them, to me, that's where it shows the real wealth of did they do worthy work with their time? And Mr. C is one of those that you can definitely say, like, he's somebody that influenced a lot of people. And this is a hard time where we're losing people to artists, and that's the reality of life. It definitely gives you to a place of enjoy what you have, and never take advantage of what you have, because you never know when you're not going to have it,
Right.
So
exactly, man. Ooh, that was deep. That even got deep for me. Thank you for laughing, because I was like, man, how do we break that one up?
I'm a jolly giant, if you don't know. I've got a lot of deep, dark stories, and that's because I chose not to run from my demons in this last year. I chose to say, hey, if you guys are going to present yourself, I'm man enough to take you all on. And so I always try to, even though I have a lot of knowledge from those dark times, I always try to cut it with humor. So one of the things I always took from my dad, just be yourself. And even though there's times where things are going to be real rough and you don't want to be laughing at a funeral or anything, but like, it's good to bring levity to even some of the hard stuff, because as humans, we need it. You need to be able to laugh with your friends. You might need to be at the corner of a funeral talking with your other friends and telling a story that's kind of funny, just to help you get through the loss.
Absolutely.
But
can't disagree. Not at all. Man, this was fun. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude, this is the legendary DJ Tiberias. For those that are not following you on social media, let them know how they can. And please plug your event for this Saturday one more time if you can.
Yeah. So all my socials are at DJ Tiberias, other than Instagram, which is The Real Tiberias. Honestly, for most people, my website's my best way to keep in tune with everything I'm doing, which is djtiberias.com. Once again, I would say go buy tickets, but we're sold out when it comes to the 311 show this Saturday. So maybe just stay tuned if you don't have a ticket, because it's going to be an epic show. Kansas City we all know the artists in Kansas City. It's been on the up for a long time. But I feel like we're finally getting to our place where the ground is being taken, and like we're finally getting the quality type of sponsors and people backing the events to take it to higher levels. And man, I'm just excited. I'm excited about the news that I can't share today. You know what I say? Like, and you know, and funny enough, it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for this 311 show. And I know that the 311 show is going to be a proof of concept, even though the people that are making the decisions have seen me do this stuff over and over again. You know, I pulled myself for 3 years since COVID because I was restructuring my family, and they're about to see me on a whole new level. So that's why I'm excited for Saturday. And it's that place of not me just going for it to try to be cool. Like this new part of my journey is for me and my kids. And if they're not a part of it, I'm not doing it. And so it's going to be a great show. It's at the Grinders in Kansas City, the outdoor venue.
What time do doors open?
At 12 o'clock. It's an early show. We go on at 6:30. We have a 30-minute set, and then I think 311 is a 90-minute set. And then there's also, I'm going to be helping some of the other locals do their opening sets as well, but I'm saving a lot for that co-headlining spot. So yeah, it's going to be a great show. And then I'm at Kelly's that night. You know,
I was about to ask, is there an after party afterward?
So there's an after party at O'Dowd's where anybody that's got a ticket can get in for free.
Are you DJing that?
I'm not. So I'm doing Kelly's in Westport, which is one of my favorite spots to DJ. You know, because that's when you're out here, that's how you got to work. You know, you can take the whole afternoon working, then you got to go do the club at the nighttime. So, but yeah, it's going to be a great Saturday. So
you're going to be at Kelly's from when to when?
From 10 to close, which is usually around 2:30.
I have a wedding to do this Saturday, but after the wedding's over, I might stop by Kelly's just to meet you in person, and if that's all right.
Oh yeah.
I'll be dressed up like this again, but I definitely want to come and meet you in person and just shake your hand and say thank you. And somewhere down the line, I would love to play alongside you one day. Absolutely, whenever that can happen.
It's going to happen for sure.
Hey, I will take that when the time comes. But in the meantime, thank you again for spending this hour plus with me and sharing your testimony and just speaking your truth. I really enjoyed even the humbled side. That was a little too deep. It was just perfect. And I can't wait to meet your son so I could just say you've got a great dad here that really is looking out for you with whatever he's doing. So please plug Joey Cool as well, because I want to start listening to his music. So what is he about right now, or what's he coming out with?
Yeah, dude. So he just re-signed. He already. So when the Planet Tour, we just put out his debut album, and he's done 6 albums since then. Dude, he is a workhorse.
Wow.
So he just re-signed for 3 more albums with Strange. So he's in the lab right now working, because that's a true artist, man. He's just constantly putting in the work. And dude, look at Joey Cool, Spotify, on Strange's website to look at all of his activities that he's doing, shows coming up. Joey Cool, like, dude, another workhorse. And then another guy that I've been honored to work with because he gets it as an artist. Like when we're on tour, we usually have 3, like that last tour, I did 5 different intros, because as tour went and things happened, we changed the intro because we want it to be a live experience, and we want the show at the beginning to be different than the show at the end. Because then, to me, you're not telling the human journey and the artistic journey if you're just doing the same thing every single time. Right. So that's one person I really believe in that has allowed me to tap into those parts of artistry. So yeah, by all means, go support, go listen to Joey Cool stuff. One track I'd say look into, obviously Face Off, the track they did with The Rock, is a dope track, but his track Kingdom, man, I was sleeping on it. I was just, as we've been working on it, I've just been like, dude, there's some depth to this track. So, dude, he's got a lot of great stuff. So,
amen and amen. Well, I will definitely take a listen to that as soon as I get off of here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is DJ Tiberias. Hit him up on his Instagram at The Real Tiberias. Don't look up DJ Tiberias. You're not going to find him. check out his website, djtiberias.com. I also wanted to say that I looked at your website and it gave me the idea of how I'm going to curate my website. I'm not going to bite yours totally, but it gave me some ideas on how to construct mine. So I really appreciate you. And again, thank you for just taking the time to be with me tonight. And man, it's been a joy and a half. And I really, really enjoyed your story. And I don't want to say I'm a fan because I know you don't like hearing that, but I'm truly now more than ever a huge supporter of what it is you do. And I definitely want to just stay on your journey, and whatever you got coming, let me know. And maybe you have to meet my wife one day when we can come out together and check.
Dude, I love it, dude. It's all about community, man. So I'm totally about that. So would love to meet her. Would love to chill. Dude, we'll be working together. I'll tell you that. So.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all for tuning into Rap Sheet Podcast, where creatives and culture meet. This is DJ Tiberias. My name is DJ Daz1. Next week, we got the one and only DJ Epps from Miami, Florida, checking us out. So definitely stay tuned for that. And as I always say, people, support the local artists and DJs and musicians that are in your city, because without y'all support, we can't do what it is we do, because we need y'all to help us feed our families. Amen and amen. So
exactly.
Tiberias, thank you once again, and salute to everyone. God bless y'all, and I will see you next Tuesday night. Peace and blessings.
Peace.
All right, man.